Hey guys, my name is Tim. I'm the Master Mechanic at Zeiton BMW Mobile Services, and today we have 2008 BMW 328i, and this is a SULEV model. So as some of you guys asked, you wanted to revisit the valve cover gasket replacement on specifically SULEV model. There's not much difference. We've done that video before, but here I am to show you how to do that on this one. Let's get to it. So the valve cover gasket leak it's usually happening on the bottom corner, of course, because the engine is angled this way towards the passenger side, and you can see it clearly in this area right here. You see the metal part. Like this one is pretty good. There is nothing wet in here, but mostly in the back right there, that's where all the action is happening. So what usually can happen, and the most obvious signal that you have the valve cover gasket leak, there's going to be smoking coming from this area right here getting out. You will also feel the smell of burning oil inside the cabin when you turn your AC or heater on, because the oil leaks from the valve cover gasket towards the exhaust manifold. The exhaust manifold gets really hot and it burns the oil. So it's not happening all the time, like the smoking and the smell, because after a while basically there is not enough leak to continuously leak unless you have it pouring, but it's rarely happened with the valve cover gasket itself. It's more likely the valve cover. So but it also very rare. So that's where you want to look for it, in those areas. And let's get to disassembling. So first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna remove all the plastic right here. It's all sitting on 8mm bolts like this. Some of them most likely broken if it's an old car. And oh, one more thing I almost forgot. What is the SULEV car? Super low emission vehicle. So that's what separates it from the regular one. It's this item right here. So that's the only obvious distinction. It's secondary air pump right here. On the regular 3 Series 328, not super low emission, this would be an empty spot. It would have this hose, it wouldn't have this valve right here either. So all of those components are indicator that you have a super low emission car. Warranty wise, super low emission vehicles are subject for warranty repairs, and the valve cover gasket is subject for warranty repair by the dealer for free parts and labor if your car qualifies, and it should be 15 years, younger than 15 years, and less than 150,000 miles. So if you meet those requirements and you have the valve cover gasket leak, just drive it to the dealer and they have to take care of it for free. Parts and labor, everything. It's part of the, well, at least we are in California, it's a California law. They're required by law to do that, so it's not dealer's goodwill or anything. They have to do that. They must. Let's get to the repairs. Disassembling all of this stuff. First of all, disassemble the back wiring. There we go. And we have 3 tabs right here. Open them up. This is all straightforward. And basically release the wire or not. It doesn't matter. It will fall off on its own. Then we go on, let's say this side. There's those things are just popping off. And it opens up the 8mm bolt right here. So that's the one. It's exactly the same one on the other side, and it's exactly the same popping cover like that. And it's also, there's a rubber tab right here that you gotta release. That's it. And now we take those bolts off the cabin air filter housing. So it's 2 on each side over there and 2 here, so 6 in total. I'll remove all that, and oh, one more thing. There is this wire. You just take it off, put it aside, and there's somewhat similar on the other side. Push and release and take it out, and nothing else holds this whole thing. So all the bolts are out. We can remove that finally. And here's the final wiring harness. So we disconnect that push and release. Simple, every BMW has those. Get it out of its place. Another rubber tab. Push it out. And that's pretty much it. Nothing else holds it. So that's the move you're gonna do. You don't have to remove this strip, but since it's already out, you will need later on to push it at least further than a half of it. So remove that. Now we're gonna remove the reinforcement bar. So those are Torx bolts right here, and the other one is right here. So what you're gonna do is put your screwdriver in, just twist. That's 45 degrees. Take it out. This cap that will open up the other Torx bolt. If you don't have Torx, there's a trick for you. 12.14 millimeter fits right over it. You don't need to take this bolt out entirely. All you gotta do is loosen it. There you go, that's enough. And the other one, if you don't have Torx, I mean, those are E-sockets. 11 millimeter fits right over it. And when you do that, nothing happens. Bolt's completely intact, nothing stripped or anything like that. Those bolts are too large to be stripped. So I know you can strip anything, but still, common sense. Like, I always use 14 millimeter even though I have the E-sockets. Like, it doesn't make sense. And now you just take this thing and pull it out. This one can come off, I mean. So you see there is a open end right here. It's the same one over there. So I've seen many times people turn them around and put it like that. That's not a way to go. This is the way to go. Slide it in, slide it under the bolt, you're good. So we remove that, put it aside. Now we're ready to remove the engine cover. It's usually 4 bolts. Those are Allen 5s. I use Torx 30, works just fine. So 2 are right in front, the other one is in the back, and the other one that we're missing is right here in the corner. So we only have to take off 3. Oh my, oh my, oh my, that's horrible. Like, all of that's just awful. It's like oil everywhere here. Very, very terrible maintenance. Now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna clear this area up of the secondary air pump. That's the difference between super low emission and not. So that's the extra steps I gotta take. Let's do that. So the secondary air injection pump, all you need is a 10 millimeter. So the first 10 millimeter bolt is right here for the secondary air injection. So it's right down there. It's a nut, so it's not a bolt, it's a nut. We take that out. Careful, don't drop it. And now we are able to remove this whole thing. Oh, I see, it's broken. Okay, so squeeze and release, that's a big hose. It's not that hard, so it's right here. Remove that. What holds this thing while we remove that is like that bracket. Obviously we don't need to install that back no more. That's broken pretty good. Alright, so that's the first thing to do. The other 2 bolts are located down there, easily accessible, easily seen. So it's all the way down here. That's the one, and there's another one right next to each other. And once again, sorry, those are nuts, not bolts. So, and after removing those, I would say it's the easiest way to pick them would be the magnet. There we go. There we go. And now the only thing left is of course this hose, squeeze and release again. This one might be a little bit tighter, but it's easily removable. And after all of that, there is a electrical connector right here at the bottom of the pump. As you can see, you squeeze on both sides of it and just pull it. Usually easily pulled. There we go. So now secondary air injection pump is out. So now I'm going to remove this secondary air injection hose. This one, it's a bit, it might get a bit tricky to remove it from this valve. So it's a squeeze and release usual hose. It's one, you squeeze it on top and the bottom. I think this one is broken, but oh yeah, it's most likely is. But it gives trouble to people, and well, it takes a second to remove for me. The trick I can show you how to do that, it's you either, I'd say, get a screwdriver, maybe longer than this one. So you put it right here and you push one side of the clip out, you hold it in place, and then you put the screwdriver on the other side. This one is broken, of course, but that's how you remove it and release it. Like this hose is broken right here where the tap is, but the trick is, like, why those squeeze and release hoses work, because those are the tabs that holding it to the surface, and when you squeeze it, it moves them out and you can remove the hose. So when you doing the screwdriver trick, it's like you removing one tab, holding it in place, and then removing the other one. The plastic is pretty hard, and there's enough for it to handle the tension of one by one side. So do that. It will save you a lot of trouble. Like, this is a hard hose to remove, and it's also the hard hose to put back. Like this one, definitely hear it click. Like if it doesn't, it will pop off. Now I'm gonna remove this cover for the, well, electric box. What you're gonna do is pop it from here, pop it from there, and then unlock, and the same goes for this side. You can't see it, but it's the same as here. Just gotta pop it from both sides, and there you have it. It's out. Why do we need to do that? To free up the wiring, basically, nothing else. Now we're gonna be removing all of the ignition coils, disconnecting everything, disconnecting the hoses. Here's the eccentric shaft sensor. Just this one, you just pop off, just like that. Gotta be cleaning that up. You see all of the oil in here? That's the recipe for the crankshaft, I mean the eccentric shaft sensor failure. So that's easily can be happening by the amount of oil is right here. So pay attention to that, clean that up. Definitely, I would say even it makes sense to clean up right now with the throttle body cleaner or the carb cleaner, anything, while the seal is still here, so it doesn't get inside the engine or anything. So just clean it up. I'll do the same. We'll disconnect the Valvetronic motor, and now I'm gonna remove the ignition coils. Oh, important for the ignition coils. Well, first of all, this is how you do it. Straight up and simple. But how to remove the ignition coils? Basically, you have to pop this cover. It will open like that, so everything is intact for now, so there is no gap in this connector right here, and then you push it. The normal connector, that, well, this cap, what it does, it pushes the connector out, and now you can easily either pull it up, or I usually use the screwdriver. You just have to pull straight up and then remove the connector. If that happens, coils are old or whatever, the cap is broken, the cap just opens up and it doesn't push like here. It doesn't push the connector. Like, I need you to close up here, very close. So you see there is no gap between the connector and the coil. That means the connector is still in there. What you gotta do is get a screwdriver right here. You see there is a little gap now, one side, and then the other side. Slowly and gently do that. You don't need to push hard. There's just little twists here and there. Now the connector is out. We still have the cap, so I hope, yep, it works like a charm. There we go. What else is in here? Obviously 3 more coils, which we're gonna remove. 8mm nuts right here. Those are ground wires. It's one right here, and the other one is on the other side between cylinder 5 and 6. So those are simple. What else? So we're gonna remove that. Then this whole wiring harness is held by pretty much clips. So this one right here, you pull it and you push. You pull the harness, push and pull. The other one is at the bottom right here. So see this one getting free already, and you're just gonna pop it from here. Let me remove the bolts and coils, and we'll continue. The beauty about the throttle body cleaner or the carpet cleaner is it vaporizes really quickly, like really quickly. If it's all clean, like you can see it's all kind of wet in here, but that's because it's oil. So the carpet cleaner itself vaporizes real fast. So don't be scared to clean up the connector itself, like spray into it, and by the time you're done, it's best to do now, by the time you're done it's guaranteed gonna be dry and normal. So you can wipe it out also, but inside the sensor, like that's pressurized, pushes out the oil, so good thing to do that. Now the harness is pretty much free, so we'll continue on freeing it up. We'll start with this positive wires right here. So I'll remove that cap. There's a 13mm right here. Be careful not to touch anything, or disconnect your battery at this point. You don't need it on anymore, so just disconnect it, save yourself some trouble. This is 13mm. Go. That's one. The other one is 10mm nut. Here we go. Got it out. Alright. Now remove it fully, and I'll put this cover back on, because there's still power there if you don't disconnect your battery, which I recommend you do. If you don't know how to disconnect your battery, don't even attempt this job. there we go. Now to completely free up the wiring harness, we gotta go here to the fuel injector connectors and separate it from fuel injectors, and of course the soil pressure sensor right here, one, then the coolant temperature sensor right here, that's the two, and this one we can leave, it's okay. That is okay. So there's two ways of doing the separation of this wiring harness from fuel injectors. Like, the one is dangerous and experimental, but it works. The other one is takes a little bit more time and it's safe. So I'll show you both. Alright, dangerous and experimental first. I'm not gonna use that, most likely. Let's just get the wires out of the way from the oxygen sensor. That's enough. What you can do is just pop it. Like, you put your long screwdriver right here, put it there. Oh, you see, works like a charm. But this one doesn't have any tension at all, so it's gonna work for the whole harness. It's not necessarily gonna work that easy for you, and I'd say 90% it's not gonna be that easy for you, because that's even rare for me. So what you're gonna do is, I'll remove the harness in order to show how I do it. So those little brackets, that's what holds the connector onto the injector. All you gotta do is just push them aside. They're gonna be jumping back, like so. You can put your pick tool right here and put it in there. While it's on the injector, it's easier to keep it out. All you gotta do is maybe just push it like that and it will release the injector. So you do it one by one, and it takes a little bit of time, but it's very doable. It's not a rocket science. It's pretty simple to do. Just push it one by one, and then once you remove this whole wiring, just put it back in there. The way it looks, those brackets once removed, is like that. They might get banned like this, pretty much. You see there's a improper form of this bracket. I just damaged it basically, but if you push it together the way it's supposed to be, like, there you go, that's it's a spring tension pretty much. The way you put it back on, you go with one side, stretch it over, and do the other one. That's it. Nice and simple. So now we have the wiring harness completely off. What we can do now is move it out of the way. So that was the whole goal of removing this harness. What's left in here, we have this valve that is absolutely necessary to remove in order to complete the job. It held by two 10mm nuts. They are pretty deep, but pretty simple to remove. So I'm going to use the deep socket for those. So I got the deep 10mm socket, one extension. This one is a 3-inch extension, and this one is a 6-inch extension. Oh, 12, sorry. So we go like that, and you can see the bolts are right here. So one, that's the furthest one. It's in place. And it's out. So that's the bolt number one. I mean nut. It's 10mm once again. And the other one is on the other side. It's you can see it clearly as well. And now it's out too. I can remove this bolt with the valve. I mean nut. There you go. So this is it. That's the valve that some of you asked in the comments on the previous video, like how I work around it. You remove it. That's it. It's just two bolts holding it, two nuts. I'm sorry, keep saying bolts. We'll definitely clean that up. doesn't look too bad, but that's the deposits of oil from the valve cover gasket lead or the Valvetronic motor seal leak. That leaks too, as well as the eccentric shaft sensor seal, that leaks too. So keep that out, and we are almost on the finish line to remove the valve cover itself. So now we're going to be removing the Valvetronic motor. It's held by 3 bolts. Those are E-socket bolts, E8 to be exact. Looks like this, star socket, like call it whatever you want. I'll start with this bolt covered in oil. Goes out straight up, just like that. And then there's 2 more, one on this side and the other one is on this side. Clearly visible, there is nothing special about them. But I'll remove this side first. Loosen it, let it out, fully remove. Not doing it side by side. Full removal. And then this bolt will constantly have tension because, as you can see, the Valvetronic motor is moving. Look at that, look at the movement as I'm loosening it. So what you want to do is I'll push it in and I'll take the bolt fully out. I'm holding it even though it pushes back. Gotta hold the tension, and now there we go. There we have it. Important. You might find some forums or I don't know, like comments here, there, everywhere telling you to release the tension through this hole of the Valvetronic motor. First of all, it's not necessary. They say it's initializing and reinitializing the Valvetronic motor. That's a load of BS. It's like, don't touch it, don't do anything with it. The first time you push your start button, it will readjust itself. That's first of all, and it will work just fine. The only thing you have to care about with reinstallation is to put this shaft on the spring, on the gear basically. So that's it. If it's out, then you have a problem. And then this popping off like this, nothing happens. Just hold it, don't let it jump out on you. Like, just hold it and gradually remove it. That's normal, absolutely normal. We'll clean that one as well. So now we got to the sort of fun part. We gotta disconnect this hose. It's a crankcase ventilation hose from the valve cover. I got the pick tool like this. Well, it's not supposed to be going up like that, so you can have a 90-degree pick tool, will work just fine. What we gotta do is I push it under at the bottom, under the tab, exactly, because I can see the top one. I can technically, you guys probably don't see it because I don't even see it either. Like, you push the tab at the bottom until you hear it move, and then what we gotta do is push the tab on top and remove it. It's not simple as it sounds, since those tabs are pretty brittle. Let's see. Possibility of breaking the hose is very real. We're going blind out there at the bottom, like, because we can't see. It's a push and release hose again, but that's the one you can basically cannot see. There we go, we have it. So what you're gonna do is, like, we can show you now. It's, you push this tab at the bottom and it twists the hose sideways, kind of releasing part of it, and then you have to push the top pin right here. So that's how you do it. Try it. Like, there is no other way to explaining it. That's the best way I found to do that. So I wish you luck with this one. And now we are ready to remove all of the valve cover bolts. I'll free up the wires for the oxygen sensors. So that's all good. Now we can actually clearly see the leak, where it's happening, why. Like all this shield, like everything down here, this is all oil, this is all burning oil. Even though the leak is not that severe, but it's just happening all over the place, and all of the seals. Like, it's happening on the eccentric shaft sensor seal, on the Valvetronic motor seal, just happening everywhere. So we just gotta replace all that and get this car back on the road as it should be. The bolts on the valve cover, those are E10s all around. Then we have 10 millimeters. You'll need a deep socket like that. We'll start with those. Like so, those are 10 millimeters, and you need a deep socket. One other thing, you don't need to remove almost any of those bolts. The only bolt you need to remove is this 10 millimeter right here, because it's not held by anything, and two bolts right here, those are E10s. They are not held by the valve cover, so you gotta remove those entirely. Everything else stays on the valve cover. And while I'm holding the 10 millimeter socket, I'll remove those bolts from the expansion tank so I can move it in the future. Yep, let's get to removal. All the visible bolts are pretty simple and straightforward. Like, there is nothing special about them, but one thing I want you to know, let's say, those bolts, they do not have to be removed. I cannot stress it enough. Like, people, oh man, they're like in the comments, like, why didn't you remove? Oh, I wait till the bolts come off. Like, what are you talking about? Those are hard bolts. They're in here. You don't have to remove them at all. Just leave them be. You don't have to replace them either. Nothing happens to those. Only happens when it's metal seal on N52 engine, the red metal seal. Those bolts break. Those are aluminum. Those never do. Never ever ever have I seen the bolts broken on this valve cover, the plastic one. So it's like, stop it, just leave them be. The hard bolts, on the other hand, like, there is the hardest bolts are, of course, would be in the back. And what do we got to do? Like, one of the tricks, you have to move this AC line out of bracket, just pop it off and just move it out. Just like that. It will help you later on with the valve cover removal, and it also clears the way. I just have this extension. Let's see if I can reach the bolt with that. So we put this, yep, just like that, and we can now take it off. And since we don't have to remove the bolt at all, I just leave it there. That's all. It will also reach the bolt in the middle with the same extension. See, just 6-inch extension, but it will not reach the bolt in the end. It's that would be a bit complicated, although, as we can see right here, someone replaced the valve cover before, so they broke this piece to make it easier for the valve cover removal, and I think it allows me to reach the third back bolt. No, it doesn't. So we can use either this extension with just a regular wrench, or, since we have a piece broken, there we go. So the back bolts are all released, the center ones too. So now we proceed with the other one. Somewhat difficult. Nothing special about it. Then I don't need this extension anymore. I'm just going to be using the 6-inch. Keep things simple. Here comes the 2 bolts that have to be removed, otherwise you might easily lose them. So you see, those are easy to remove, not unlike those are the bolts on the valve cover that are held in place and you have to apply force to remove them. So that's the big difference. Like, you don't need to remove those bolts right here because they are good where they are. Alright, so make sure, the only thing I ask, make sure all the bolts are loose. Otherwise, it's really easy for you to break stuff, and more specifically, break parts of valve cover. Here's the 10mm bolt that needs to be removed. We got everything else out of the way, so now we are coming to the fun part. The valve covers can be pretty sticky to the surface, and before I'll attempt moving it, adjust the harness, we take the expansion tank out of its place, just let it hang because this hose will be on the way and we'll need this spar flexible. And let me see if I can, yep, I can't move the valve cover with my hands only, so let me show you the trick how to do that. So, a simple screwdriver, a simple leverage point right here, magic. It's free. That's it. That's all it takes. The valve cover is lifted, as you can see, so there is nothing else holding it pretty much. So let's move those wires out of the way. We can remove this connectors if we wish, for just to create more room, kind of. Now the back should be straightforward, so we got that done. What I'm seeing now, we have all the spark plug tubes are staying in, all of them. So none of them came out with the valve cover. I'd say it's most likely a good thing, but if they are, if they are sticking to the valve cover, the easiest way to pull them out, of course there's 2 holes in there that you can squeeze and pull them out, but I would say the easiest way is to lift the valve cover, reach your hand and pull them out from the bottom. They come out very easily. So let's remove the valve cover. Of course, things are on the way, but this AC line we moved, real easy to get over. Now the trick is to pretty much be even with it, and there are some parts of it. Let me grab that. Like at this corner we have a sticking point of the valve cover hitting this box right here, and also there's a sheet of metal in there. So the only thing you can do against it's just clear the way for it. Every time this job is a complex thing to do. The struggle is real, but it is all doable. Gotta leave as many items movable as possible. So so you don't break anything. Alright, one more. Just hang with me in here. A little bit more, and there you have it. So, as I said, let's examine those spark plug tubes. They stayed in the whole time. Usually, one of the reasons it's hard for people to remove the valve cover, one of the reasons, not the only one, because those spark plug tubes, they stick out of the valve cover and they are on the way, 6 of them on the way of all of those things create a lot of force, pretty much, a big obstacle. So you gotta remove them one by one out of the valve cover, either while it's still in place and you push on those 2 holes, it compresses them and you pull it out upwards, or it's very easy to just reach your hand in there and just remove them. You don't even need to remove them completely. Drop them here. If they drop like that, there is no problem. You'll pick them up later, but you absolutely have to do that. Now, let's install the new valve cover and all the other seals. Here's the valve cover. We got this seal, Valvetronic motor seal, held by 2 Torx 30s right here. Should be Torx 30s. Let me check. Sometimes those bolts are replaced with aftermarket Torx 25, 27. So those are original. That's Torx 30s. Just remove that and you're good to go. Nice and simple. Nothing special about it. Just don't lose them. There we go. And now, well, put your screwdriver anywhere you like. Twist it. And there you have it. That's the troublemaker number 1. Say number 2, since the valve cover is number 1. Valve cover gasket. Now we remove this eccentric shaft sensor seal. This one is pretty much pressed in, so you gotta need a screwdriver. You will have to leverage it against, and nice and easy. That's troublemaker number 3. So now what are we gonna do? Like, once again, fellas, those bolts, you see those bolts? You gotta do absolutely nothing with them. Not replace them, not remove them. They will not fall off. They will not. That's absolutely not necessary to do anything with them. I'm stressing this because I've received a lot of comments, not a lot, maybe 10, 20, like whatever, saying like, oh, what happens with the bolts? Like, nothing. Just addressing it here and now so nobody asks, but I know you will, so whatever. At least someone, maybe not. So now, what are we gonna do? We gotta clean the passages of where the valve cover goes really good. Like, I'm gonna use the throttle body cleaner, of course, and the towels after that. So you start with the, I'd say, positioning the valve cover like that and going down just like that. Once you completed the whole valve cover like this and those in the middle as well, you just clean it up, make it completely dry. I'll do that and we'll continue. So as you guys can see, everything is clean and dry. Now we are almost ready to install the valve cover gasket. I cleaned as much as I could right here, but it's like you can never get it perfect unless you get the new valve cover itself. So we'll start with the installation of the Valvetronic motor seal. That's right here. I also will have a link for what I'm going to use in this kit, everything is L-ring. So the valve cover gasket is L-ring, and the Valvetronic motor seal is L-ring, as well as the eccentric shaft sensor seal is L-ring as well. I prefer this one. I used to work with Victor Rein's seals, but for this engine specifically, for this valve cover, they produced some batch was twisted valve cover gaskets, so they didn't work that well, and I switched to L-ring and I never switched back. So I'm not sponsored or anything, it's just my preferable brand of seals for this engine. So let's start with the Valvetronic motor seal. Like it's a harsh seal. It's a big one. It's held by 2 bolts. Real easy to install. There we go. So this is the top. It's like there's a lot of room at the bottom out of the hole, so that's the bottom. And now we just have to put it in properly. There we go. I'm more focusing towards the bottom. I just want to make sure the bottom is good and flush. So we just do that. Not pushing it too much. Alright, so this is done. Now, we'll leave the eccentric shaft sensor hole open. We don't install the seal here at all until we put the valve cover back in place. So this, just leave that be. Now, what we're gonna do, interestingly, I have the silicone, which is L-ring as well. Works pretty good. We only need very reasonable amount of silicone. So I got just a bit. We start at the very middle of the bottom, of the rear portion of the valve cover. So I want to put silicone in here just for the valve cover gasket to stick to the valve cover. That's the whole purpose of it. No extra sealing powers, nothing like that. The only reason I'm doing that is because I really need this valve cover gasket to stick to the valve cover. Otherwise the installation might be hell. So we just put a little bit, as you can see, in every section of the bottom portion. I'll also put some in here, not much required. So just don't, please, I beg you, don't overuse the silicone. You just need drops all over, and that's pretty much it. On the top end, you need even less silicone because it's really accessible, and if the gasket falls off a bit, it's really easy to correct it while installing the valve cover. So we don't need much at all. So this is it. Like, as you can see, this is all the silicone I need for this job. Now we'll start with I'll usually start with the middle pieces. You just want to make sure everything is tight and flush in there, as well as when we install the valve cover gasket. You just need to make sure. Everything is just like that. Okay, now we There we go. Alright guys, so the valve cover gasket technically is in place, but not yet. So we go inch by inch and making sure everything is pressed in, because it's really easy. As you can see, it can be the valve cover gasket might be a little bit you wouldn't notice it, but it's a bit bigger than the valve cover passage is, so it kind of fills it up better. So you got to push it in because it might want to come out. We're pushing it all in, and when we did, so this is all nice and dandy, wait at least, let it sit for at least 15 minutes. 30 minutes better. Let the silicone stick to the valve cover, like let them bond, and then we can install it. It's gonna be way easier because like there's gonna be obstacles on the way, and I want this little touches not to remove the valve cover from its passage, so it's very possible to happen. That's why we use the silicones, so everything sticks together the way it's supposed to. And meanwhile we are waiting for it, there's a good time and opportunity to clean up all the surfaces around the mating surface, basically where the valve cover gasket goes. So make it all clear, make it all clean. Definitely clean this shield right there, spark plug tubes, like where everything goes in here. So everything you can. There is no need to clean any of the components of the valve cover, I mean of the camshafts or the Valvetronic mechanism Vanus or anything like that. So just don't touch that. That's the job for the oil. One of the purposes of the engine oil is to clean, so more often oil changes will do the job for you. So we're just cleaning everything where the valve cover gasket goes and the damages of the leaking valve cover gasket as well. So I'll spray as much as I can to clean the catalytic converter on bank 2, but do that. And we're waiting at least 15 minutes for the silicone to mate to the valve cover gasket. The gasket is sealed, so the easiest test you can do it like that. Everything sticks, all good. So now let's put it back. That's the hardest part of the whole repair, putting it back properly. Alright, now during the whole time of putting it back, I would rather you to have your hands on the seals. Of course we want all the wires out. Let me see, so since we have a little break in here, like that's gonna be a little easier. As you can see right here on this part, like what's standing on the way of the valve cover is, if you can zoom in closer, like this white piece of this box of wiring and the DME, I think it's here, it's on the way of the valve cover, but as you can see it's movable, so it's plastic, it moves, it's not that big of a deal. So just use that to your advantage. And now, what's next? Yep, there's a metal Now, what I felt just now, that I lost the valve cover gasket seal in the back. So it's out of place. I can see it, I can put it back. But if you can't, remove it fully to make it in, to put it in properly. Like I can see from here, from the inside, that everything is in place. Okay, now we can continue. It's not an easy task by any means, but that's doable. That's why you have to keep your hands on the gasket at all times, pretty much, to feel if it's going out or not. It's a very complex task because there's a lot of things on the way. All right. We are almost there. Okay. There we go. So once it reaches this position, you're pretty much all good. But once again, what we gotta do is make sure everything is proper. And to do that, I will need to take my gloves off. I definitely need to feel that seal being in place 100%. I really don't want to redo this job at any point, so the whole back is fine. Then I gotta check the bottom portion. Those are the most common areas to fail, so everything here and all over the bottom. And then the other final pretty much test for the proper setting of the valve cover. So all the seals are there. I didn't lift the valve cover too much. I know, so everything intact. Now, once everything is good, we put the valve cover to the, and I feel it like it's sliding on this seal. So if the seal would be out somewhere, when you push the valve cover, you would feel it rocking like side to side somewhere. But this one, solid. It's all good. All right. And now we can start bolting it on. I would start with the middle 10mm bolts. We'll do those. Technically, what you want to do is hand tight everything, and then you can start the tightening sequence. And the tightening sequence would be, I'd start from the bottom back to the front, upper, and the crisscross pattern. This usual stuff. Like, it doesn't really matter that much, but if you want some kind of pattern, like, that's the way to go. now everything's hand tight, and I can finally do the tightening. So as I said, I always start with the rear corner bottom bolt, so we do that, and then the one right next to it, impossible for you guys to see, but you'll know where it is, under the PCV, and then the one right here, upper. So we did those. Now we can move to this side. After that, I would go for the other corner right here. There we go. Try this one. And now we can move towards this corner. One. And since there is not much bolts left, I will just tie down those bottom bolts completely. Regarding the torque sequence, I mean torque specs, there you have it, just right here. It says on every valve cover, unless it's aftermarket that doesn't say that, but even aftermarket do that. 8 and a 6, more or less 0.6 Newton meters. That's the valve cover bolts torque. And since we are done with the bottom, all of the bottom bolts, I'll continue with the top. Oh, missed one. And the only thing left is the middle bolts, those 10 millimeters. There we go. Now, the valve cover gasket is installed. The only last thing we have left is this eccentric shaft sensor seal, and you can look inside the sensor. So remember, I cleaned it up with the carb cleaner, the throttle body cleaner, and it's completely dry now, free of oil, and I hope to say the same for the connector. We'll see later on. It's somewhere in there, but we'll see that. So as you can see, it's perfectly centered, the sensor within the hole for the seal. Aftermarket gaskets, I mean, sorry about that, aftermarket valve covers, they usually, what I've seen a lot, they are not centered perfectly, so they are moved here or there. They still work, since the eccentric shaft sensor seal is a flexible seal, so you can move it back and forth, but that's the indicator that that's a good valve cover. The sensor is centered right here. Now, from here on, here's the new eccentric shaft sensor seal. We just got it over the sensor, and you can pretty much push it in. Like, I know some people use the 32 millimeter deep socket and they just hammer it in, but that's not really necessary. Just make sure it's completely flush with the surface and you pushed it all the way in, and that's pretty much it. That's good. From here on out, everything is simple, but we'll keep going. So now we are gonna proceed with the installation of the Valvetronic motor. I cleaned it up so it's nice and shiny again. Let's see how that goes. Alright, so you see there's tension in there. That means I did hit the spring. And now we're gonna install the first bolt. So it's under tension, that's definitely good. That means it's right where it's supposed to be. Hand tight one bolt, the second one goes in just the way it's supposed to. The other indicator of cheap valve cover is that the bolts don't really fit. Like those bolts wouldn't fit, this seal wouldn't be centered. That's for those unbranded valve covers that you can find on eBay for $100. Like if you see the valve cover for this engine for $100, just run from it. Even for $200, that's too cheap unless it's used. So yeah, the good valve cover would cost at least $300. So we got all those bolts in. Everything in place with that. And now we're gonna proceed with the wiring. So yeah, let's put this guy back in place where it belongs. Oh no, before that, almost forgot, it's a SULEV model. So we'll have to put the valve first. So we're gonna put the secondary air injection valve first. There we have it, this part facing this way towards the secondary air injection pump. Sits on, as you remember, on two 10mm nuts. I mean, held by two 10mm nuts. Put them on first. That's the second one. Don't drop them. There we go. And just a couple extensions will do. Even one. Yep, there we go. Alright, that is good. And now we can proceed with the wiring. I would start with those two oxygen sensors. Definitely it's hard to reach. And also another thing, don't forget to put this AC line back in its bracket. So start here. You don't see it probably, but you know where it is. Okay. Keep this wire right here. There we go. Everything else. There's another bracket for the oxygen sensors right here on top. And now we can put the PCV hose back in place to the valve cover. Don't forget that till it clicks. And now let's proceed with the rest of the wiring. As you can see, the wires have a tendency to just go where they belong since they've been sitting there for years. And they designed the way, so you just technically you can't mess it up, but I know you can. That's that happens. So the wiring is in place. Let me see this yeah, completely dry connector for the eccentric shaft sensor, so that's a good thing. Let's see how we're doing right here. So remember, this wiring is on clips, we just push it in. 8mm bolts right here, and almost the final part. Like, don't forget those guys, so just put them in. The coils will push them further when you install them. There's no need, like, I know you need to push past the tabs in there, so they have to be locked in place, but the coils will do its job. Like, that's just enough. All right, plug it in. This, that, and that, and finally our injectors all popping in. The wiring should be in place, just like that. So this is good, this is good. The only thing left is the 8mm, the coils. Let's do that and come back. One important thing, fellas, when you're installing the ignition coil back, I want you to make sure, and every single one of them received plenty of comments too, and I've seen plenty of cars after DIY repairs. People have a lot of codes, like one car had 15 codes just because didn't plug in the one ignition coil fully. So like that happens. So if you see this gap, like this cap on this ignition coil, it's pretty good. So if you just close it, it will push the connector in. But there are some caps like that, they just don't do their job, and if you don't fully plug it in, you can still close the cap with this gap. That wouldn't be good. Like, you would have a misfire on this cylinder. So make sure you push it all the way in and then you lock it in place. So that's important. Pay attention to that. Next thing, we're gonna connect back the power wires. So remember, those are 13 and 10. All right, I'll do that and we'll come back. So now I put back the secondary air injection pump, 2 nuts at the bottom, real easy. Don't forget to plug it in to connect it. And now I'll start with this hose, that's important. So I'll start with the valve, push it in until it clicks. Mine does, so you can push it back a little bit to see if it stays. And that's the other side, must click as well, otherwise you see it can easily be taken out. There we go, now it's all solid. And the last part of this place is this hose. All right, we are all good. Now from this point on, guys, I think you can trace your steps and pull everything back together as it is, because there is nothing essential here no more, just plastic and some covers. So I think we're done here. Okay guys, so that's the first startup. It runs real well. What can you expect when you do that? So first of all, there is still gonna be some smoke coming out of this area if it was a heavy leak. Definitely, because all the oil that is still on the catalytic converter, it has to burn out. So don't be scared of that. This is a completely normal operation of the car, but start and restart a few times, or at least if you have a scanner, scan it for codes, of course. Maybe you forgot to plug something in. That happens to the best of us. So that's a good thing. If you don't have a scanner, just go for start and restart the car a few times. If there is no check engine light, you are most likely good. Everything runs proper, you're good. If there is an issue, retrace your steps. And I can already, now the car is starting to heat up, I smell the burn basically. So it's right there, let it be. It usually takes up to 15 minutes to 20 minutes, sometimes heavy leaks, an hour, but it will burn out. If everything is good, you're good to go. And you can always now, since everything is clean, you can check it out and see if there is oil or not. Alright guys, so the car runs perfect, everything is good, and I hope this video was helpful. So The best thing you can do is like the video, share the video, sharing is caring, and subscribe to the channel. Let us help promote this proper repairs on BMWs. And of course, thank you guys for watching. Don't break your cars, and I'll see you in the next one.